My name isn't important. What matters is the map, or rather, the maps, because there is more than one. I carry a notebook in my coat pocket. It's soft around the edges now. The corners are bent, creased from being opened and closed too many times in too many places. The cover used to be a pale green, but now it looks more like the color of dried grass at the end of a long summer. It's not much to look at, but inside is something else. Maps, pages of them. Each one is drawn by hand in black ink. Some are detailed sketches of intersections and alleyways. Others are nothing more than rough outlines, like shadows of places, with cryptic notes scribbled in the margins. All of them mark a moment, a place, a point of loss. The first entry is dated September 3rd, 2004. I was 12 years old. That day, I lost a watch. Not just any watch. It was my grandfather's. An old, ticking wristwatch with a leather strap that had grown smooth and cracked with age. It made a loud tick-tick sound, the kind that made you feel like time was always moving a little too fast. He gave it to me just before school started. I wore it every day, until the day I didn't. I was running to catch the bus, my backpack flapping, my heart racing. Somewhere on the corner of 5th and Main, the strap must have broken. When I reached for my wrist later that day, it was bare. I went back after school, searched the sidewalk, looked in the gutter, asked at the bakery on the corner, but it was gone. Just gone. I sat on the curb and cried. It wasn't just the watch I was mourning. It was the connection, the weight of something he'd worn, passed down to me, now lost to the streets. That night, I opened a sketch pad and drew the corner from memory. I marked the spot. I wrote a title, Grandpa's Watch, Lost to Time. And that was the beginning. Since then, I've marked every significant loss. There's the library table where I left a letter I never had the courage to send. I was 17, full of feelings and fear. I wrote to someone I loved, poured my heart out in ink. But when the moment came, I panicked. I tucked the letter inside a copy of Jane Eyre at the university library. It felt poetic at the time. When I returned the next day, both the book and the letter were gone. Just like that. That map is different. There's a jagged line through the center, like a crack running through the world. I titled it, Words Unsent, Love Unknown. Not every map holds heartbreak. Some losses were smaller. A pair of sunglasses left behind at a summer fair. My favorite fountain pen that slipped through the floorboards at a friend's old apartment. A single earring lost while dancing at a wedding I barely remember. But even these losses have stories. Snapshots. And I marked them all. I walk through the city like a cartographer of absence. Each street corner, each stairwell, each patch of grass becomes a site of memory, a monument to a former version of myself. And each time I revisit one, I stop, take a breath, and flip through the notebook to find the matching page. There's an alley behind the movie theater downtown. That's where I lost my temper. My brother and I had an argument. Harsh words flew. We didn't speak for months after that. I stood in that alley recently, just listening to the silence. That map says, sharp words, empty echoes. Then there's the beach where I married Lena. It was a warm evening. The tide was low, the wind gentle. I remember slipping the ring onto her finger, her laugh carried off by the sea breeze. We danced barefoot in the sand. Years later, on the same beach, I lost that ring. We were walking hand in hand. I didn't notice when it slipped off. We searched for hours, never found it. That entry in the notebook is soft and lyrical. It reads, "The ring returned to the sea. Some promises go home, Sometimes I lose things I didn't know I was still carrying. One spring morning, I was sitting alone in a downtown cafe, sipping bitter coffee. I had brought with me a photograph of my mother. It showed her mid-laugh, her hair wild from the wind. I don't remember why I brought it. Maybe I just missed her. I left it in the booth. When I went back, it was gone. I stood there, frozen, hoping it might still be tucked behind the sugar jar or under the table. But no. That map is water-stained, the ink bleeding slightly at the edges. I wrote, "Laughter on wind, memory misplaced." And you might be wondering, why? Why keep such a record? Why hold on to what slipped through my fingers? Because some people collect souvenirs. Others keep diaries. I draw maps. I chart the emotional geography of my life. Not through what I kept, but through what I lost. Because loss, strangely enough, leaves an outline, a shape, a space where something once was. And in that space, I see who I was. Like the old playground where I tried to impress the older kids. I climbed too high, fell too hard, broke my arm. I remember lying on the ground, the pain sharp and new, realizing for the first time that I wasn't indestructible. That map looks like a war zone. Scribbled trees, broken lines. The title reads, "First Break. Bones heal. Confidence takes longer." Or the park bench where I left behind a journal of poems I had written in secret. I used to read them out loud under my breath. One day, I just left the journal there. Maybe someone found it. Maybe they read it. Maybe they didn't. That map doesn't even have a title, just a faint sketch of the bench and a circle around it. There's something peaceful about this ritual. It gives shape to things that otherwise vanish. It reminds me to remember. One winter, I visited a friend I hadn't seen in years. We shared wine, laughter, stories about the people we used to be. I left behind the scarf she had knitted for me when we were in college. I didn't ask her to send it back. It felt right to leave it there. That map is warm, gentle. It says, "Left in warmth, taken by time." Some maps are heavy, some light. Some are messy, some are nearly blank. But together, they form a kind of atlas of my life. At the bus station, I lost a dream. I had a suitcase packed, a one-way ticket to a new city, a job lined up, but I froze. I watched the buses come and go, and I didn't get on. I stayed. That map is filled with arrows, all pointing different directions. It says, "Fork in the road." Stayed for reasons that made sense later. At the laundromat, I lost a shirt that belonged to my father. It smelled like him. I held on to it longer than I should have. I waited 3 days, asked around. Nothing. That map is stark, minimal, just a square with a small note. Washed away. Grief lingers. In a hotel room in Rome, I lost a journal intentionally. I left it behind. It was filled with the aftermath of a breakup, raw and painful. I let it go on purpose. Closed that chapter. That map feels different. It has a tiny drawn flame in the corner. I wrote, "Released." Lighter now. I didn't think the notebook itself could ever be part of the story, but one day it happened. I was walking by the river. Cool wind, soft light, the sounds of the city blending with the rustle of leaves. I sat on a bench for just a few minutes. The notebook was in my pocket when I sat down. But when I stood up, it was gone. I searched everywhere, retraced my steps, asked around. Nothing. At first, I panicked. That notebook held 2 decades of maps, years of memory, of processing, of presence. I felt like a part of me had been ripped away. But then, something shifted. I stood still, looked out over the water, and I realized, this too is part of the map. Maybe the final map doesn't get drawn, maybe it's lived. Loss doesn't ask permission. It doesn't care what matters to you, but it does leave a shape, and we get to decide how we fill that shape, how we remember, what story we choose to tell. I could start a new notebook, and I probably will. But for now, I walk a little lighter, and even without the pages, I know the maps are still with me. They live in the way I touch my wrist when I pass Fifth and Main, in the way I pause at park benches, at library tables, on quiet streets, in the way I remember. Not everything lost needs to be found. Some things just need to be honored. And I am still mapping.